Okay, everybody's saying. Let me introduce Cheshe Mishpat. Cheshe Mishpat, the Shulchan Aruch, and the Sma we're very lucky, because the Sma made a pirish on the Mechaber. He made it that everyone could understand it. Truthfully, that's really how he made it. And we don't have it in any place in Shulchan Aruch that way. That's why the Mishnah had to make a Mishnah and because they doesn't explain the Mechaber in Megavrom. The first thing Megavrom is coming, argues on the Mechaber. Here, the Sma was made a perish on Cheshe Mishpat. I want to tell you an amazing story. They reprinted the Shulchan Aruch Cheshe Mishpat. I'll tell you a Lubavitcher story, since you guys are Lubavitch, and I'll tell you the story about this print. There was a Yid called Rabbi Blau. I forgot his name. Kohen. Remember the guy? Well, he printed all the Rishonim. He went to Oxford and got the Kisvei Yudas. Vatican. So what was his name? Yudah Kohen Blau.
Check the mezuzahs and stuff like that.
He was the one who went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and made a tumah about the mezuzahs. Told me himself. He was the one who went to the Rebbe. He was the Lubavitcher Chassid and told the Rebbe that the many mezuzah are apostle, and the Rebbe made a tumah, the famous tumah about mezuzahs. He told me himself. What? It was people didn't know what they were doing. He was the one who made a big tumah in the world. Anyways, so he went to the Vatican, printed the. He was Hungarian, who became a Lubavitcher, a very interesting person he was. Rabbi Shulchan told me that it's his uncle. So he printed the Ritva on Sechtes Bubasa. And he went to Oxford, one of these places, and one Pedic on the Ritva he didn't have.
In Oxford?
Yeah, they didn't have it. Okay, he was in the middle of printing the Ritva. So he would come every year to raise money in Flatbush and other. Flatbush, it's like Avenue O, Avenue P, and if you go down, you don't know the block unless you know the thing. So he walks into a place, he had it written down, 1445 Avenue P. He comes to the house, but it's not at the house. He knocks on the door, it's not the person who comes every year. And he instead of going to Q, he went to P. But it was a Yiddish guy. So he says, I came to raise money. The guy is a Sephardish Assyrian guy. He says, what do? I print manuscripts. Oh, you print manuscript? I bought a manuscript in Latin, he tells him, from whoever the guy on the black market. And can you tell me if it's worth anything? That's what he asked him. Takes out the Ksav, not Latin, it's Lushna Kodesh, it's the Pedic Ritva that he was missing. When it was Nifter, it was written in all the papers, the story from the Jewish press, and even the Hamedia, I forgot which one was anti-Chabad, and they were fuming that he wrote in that he was a Chabaditcher Chassid. But all the Rishonim was the first one who went. The guy who printed this sefer, they redid the Cheshe Mishpat, he went to Flatbush. And a guy came to him, he says, I found an old Ksav Yad. He bought the house, and the owners, he was an old man who lived there, old wife, and the children, not very religious, and they left a junk there, mamish junk. And between the junk, he found a Ksav Yad, meaning it was a print, only the Sma, with a bunch of Haguas on the side. So he gave it to a bunch of experts. And you know what it turned out? It turned out it was the Shachs Ksav Yad. On the Sma. Wow. And that's when they printed this, so they used that thing. It's an amazing thing.
No, it's your Shulchan Aruch, it's not like our Shulchan Aruch.
A little different. They fixed an enormous amount of things. They put in a ton of money into this, and it's an unbelievable job they did. Especially Cheshe Mishpat, because there was a lot of mistakes. The printing mistakes. It wasn't so much learned. So Yerei Chaim, Yerei Day was learned a lot.
So how old is that?
How old is this?
No,
Ksav Yad, the Shach lived over 350 years ago. Almost 400 years ago the Shach lived. And we'll tell you about the Shach. He was, you see from the Paiskim how they don't want to argue with the Shach, it was frightening. So he was 42 years old when he died. And he wrote his Shach Yeridei was 23. And he writes in a sefer that he chazed each sifkot 101 time. And his son-in-law, the Gemara writes that he was right after, he was, in the Shach himself, in the Chashmish writes, he was when he wrote the Shach, he was running from the Kazakh, and how do you call it, Khmelnytsky, and we're running, and he writes a few places that he's on the run, he doesn't have the Svarim. While he's on the run, he was writing the Sefer Chashmish. But so son-in-law writes that when his father-in-law died, I didn't have a night, every night he came to me telling me, drink, print my Sefer. Every night.
After he passed away.
After he passed away. He would not relent. And by day, I didn't have Panosa because there was a Charbim that left. He writes in the Agdama. But the Shach is okay. He lived in Vilna, lived in Poland, and he was on the run. That was before the Baal Shem Tov. It was about 100 years before the Baal Shem Tov.
Okay, that's it, because the Chaber wasn't that long ago.
Right. Chaber was Shin Lamed. I think the first print was Shin Chov Zayin. That means 500 years ago. Okay, Rabbi side. So let me begin with question. There's a din that every community is obligated to have law and order. Our law and order has to depend on the Torah. See, the Torah is not like, other religion. Other religion, there's no religion how, I think someone told me the Muslim is that way a little bit, but other religions don't have rules and monetary rules. You know that a law professor told me that all the English law was taken from the Gemara. Who's a lawyer over here? Is that true? That's what our English professor told me. A law professor told me. Based Kamat, everything. Yeah, so anyways, the bottom line is that there's a chiyuv to have the Yonam. Unfortunately, and after the World War II, it became like orphan. But in Europe, the cities, there was the Rav, and many cities had a Dayan, and he was in charge of, and everyone had to follow, this was accepted. We don't have a Bezdin Kavua. Bezdin Kavua means that the city accepted them, they should be the Dayanim. Either you voted for them, or the Zion Tivai, the city council appointed them. Unfortunately, we have absolutely nothing like that. It's a business. Where?
In Europe, there's more.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. In England, is it accepted? I'm not how it works.
I don't know England. Switzerland,
Schweiz, maybe yes. And Kronites, I was told, yeah, also not. I don't know. But in Monroe they have one. In Skate they have one. But that means that the community accepted them as Dayanim, so you can't pass them. Many halachas is very much negaya. We don't have this luxury. There's a RCC. I sit in the Torahs, and they're not. They appointed themselves. It's a business. You could open a business. Anyone could open a business. There was a lawyer came to me. He wants to open a business for mediation. So I think it's a great idea. If you get some good lawyers who make sure who know how not to fight, not to be calm, and not to, because the only ones who, when you go to court, wins are the lawyers, are the only ones who make money. And so anyways, so there's a din, there's a chiyuv. There's another thing.
So where is it considered established as
when the city accepted them, voted for them, that members of the city, or the Zion Tivai. Zion Tivai was appointed a city council. Zion Tivai is like city council. You voted for the city council, and they went and got a Bezdin. That means we accepted.
Theoretically, that's the way
Yeah, okay.
because it comes from voting and
It comes from voting.
The city pays the salary for them.
right.
It's part of that.
Yeah, so that, and they have to listen to every din Torah. Like over here, you can't go to any Bezdin if a guy came over to me and he tells me he's a construction, when he built someone's house, and the guy says he doesn't pay him the last $4,000. He says, the way you can take me to the Torah, before you turn around, it'll cost you $4,000. He told him in his face. So I told him he should go to small claims court.
You can't get $4,000.
Yeah, you could. It went up to 5 already.
Yeah, you could do that.
It went up to more to 7,500 now. It went up. So he went to the store and he won. The guy didn't show up. He got a judgment, which is he puts it on the house. And, anyways, but we later learn all this halachas. But there has to be the chiyuv of a community, just like a community has to build a shul, community has to build a mikveh, community has to build a cheder. A community must have a bezdin. In order, there's always going to be, always going to be sichsich, disputes. People are going to go into business. What you said, what I said, what he said. It's normal. That's what people make a misunderstanding. So there's a chiyuv of the community how to do that.
But over here, even if it was self-appointed, it's functioning. People want to go. They have a kehillah, they have an RCC, they have a
but it's not. We can't force anyone.
Most people even go to these dinim and they listen. No?
So are you saying that theoretically a city like Los Angeles really has an obligation to set up a community bezdin?
Yes.
Even though we have one here, I'm saying
We don't have. That's not kavua. It is a business.
But people accept that.
No, that's not. Because you have to sign shtura berira. You have to sign. If 2 people go to 3, if you go to mediation, there's today it's a big business. I once went to testify in mediation. It's a big.
They undertake before that they're going to keep the sign.
Yeah. So that if 2 people have a dispute and they come to me and they want me to, the court is going to hold it. It's a judgment. So it's kavua means l'moshel. Today you can't go to Bezdin if it's not $10,000. The Yonim charge you $500 for an hour.
It's not so much. If I have experience with the RCC, if it's small things.
They try to have one time, but if it's any big sichsich, it's not worth it. People come to me all the time. We tried in the koil. I got to convince the koil people, no cheshmishpeh, they should take small claim. But otherwise, they don't take money. But otherwise, a person has, the din is that a city has to have a bezdin who are able to, every case, they shouldn't cost money. That's a chiyuv.
These bezdins, like, Mutzi, people talk about Machai Lahara or whatever. Is that called a city bezdin?
No, it's not.
That's also a religious bezdin.
No, it's not a city at all. No one pointed them. It's not. It just, and Halacha has a big place because it's called a Beis Vad. A nitva has a right to say, a guy who gave the loan has a right to say, I want to go to the big bezdin. And they are known to be chosh mishpat moedik well. Just we later learn that concept. But they're not. There is no bezdin kavur, Mansi. There's no bezdin, very rare. There's even Eretz Yisrael, the Badatz is not a bezdin kavur. It wasn't voted.
Someone calls me to do Torah, I can just go.
No, you have to go. You have to respond. Any 3 people could call you to din Torah. Because that's the halacha. You have to respond. We later learn about that. You must respond. The question is, who did you go to? You have to choose a dayan. He chooses the dayan. But if someone calls you in Torah, you're obligated al pi Torah to go. And if you don't respond, it's an obligation to the community to put you into chayrim.
There's no cool.
The whole community should put a guy into chayrim if he doesn't want to respond. Today, there's a case, I don't want to say which rabbi, his president doesn't want to go to the Torah. Someone calls him to the Torah. It's an old thing in my community. You're not up to date, Daniel, looks like then. When a guy doesn't want to go to the Torah, the Rishi cool. Someone calls him and doesn't with excuses. So the RCC gave him permission to go but the truth is, that if we do things right, they should put a chayrim on him. What do you mean he doesn't want to go to court? We don't.
But what about when there's like competing bezdins? There was a story where in Crown Heights they had a rav that was going to the bezdin, but like some people weren't a fan, so they got some other bezdin to put they called the guy.
No, that wasn't a din Torah against the person. That was upside din that one base, and they found another upside din from another base.
No, the Master was saying, they went to a bezdin and the shtai signed shtura berira. You can't overturn that.
No. He's a dayan on one bezdin, but the other bezdin comes in and says, "Hey, you got to come to us." Like you give school jurisdiction.
And I have the story, but
there's another story I saw in Australia, right? So there's whatever, the Rabbanim in Australia, whatever, one of the Moises fired a guy. So he went to Sydney, to the Bezdin over there, and got like, some sort of, what do they call it, an equal or something like that.
Yeah, you could. Bezdin could give an equal.
So it's like, but they're basically, they're putting an equal against a entity that's controlled by the Melbourne Bezdin. So like, hey, if we enter the Melbourne, why do we have to enter the Sydney Bezdin? You know what I mean? Like,
But it depends. Does Melbourne have a Bezdin Kavua?
No, just like LA.
Yeah, I was in Melbourne. It doesn't have a
Neither does
Bezdin.
Sydney.
Yeah, so any three people can make it an equal. How's it called in English? Equal is the name for that. Conjunction. How is it called? Injunction. Yeah, any three people, but they have to know. They have to know what they're doing, doing. We'll later learn how that works. But any three people. Like what he was asking Yankee. Any three people call a person to the Bezdin. Al pi Torah, he's obligated to respond, and if he doesn't, the community has to put him to chayrim.
They have to have dayanos, or they're just rabbis?
They should choose. There's no dayanim, so you choose. The Rashba says in the tshuva that someone asked him in his city, no one knows Choshen Mishpat. We barely have a rabbi who could tell us Yeridei. Doesn't call Yeridei. They didn't have that. What should we do? So he says you should appoint three people who don't businessmen, and there you have to. You're not allowed to go to court. You have to go to three people who will just judge the best they can. So that's a chiyuv. Anyways, it's a chiyuv min haTorah. It's an obligation which we are not fulfilling over here. You have to have judges, and you have to have police.
We have the police, we don't have the judges, we don't have
The truth.
The Rabbanu considered like this?
I don't know how it works. Who's an Israeli? In Israel, they vote for the dayan, for a judge, or they're appointed.
I think so. I'm not sure though.
No, they're appointed. They're appointed and they pay money from the government, and the people are paying money for it. Of course.
For the city rabbi, but it's.
No.
I know they have dayanim for sure.
Yeah, but the Yonim, how does it work? Who appoints the Yonim? The Zion Tiva'ir, the community, the committee?
There's a vote. I think there's a vote in it.
Here in America, there are certain judges are voted in. You see
Voted by the people in Israel.
if they voted, then it's how's it kifa? Then how's it?
So what do you mean? Any three?
No, but you can't. Let's say you live in Crown Heights, and a guy to call you to Din Torah. So we later learn certain times you have a right. I don't want to go to the Bezdin. Sometimes if they can. Let me explain how it works. How it works: if you call to Din Torah, you calling me to Din Torah. I choose someone. You choose someone. The two of them choose a third, and the three people are going to be the Yana.
You understand that? He chooses his own judge.
Each one. Now, if we can't get to a compromise, and this guy says I don't want to get. He's not good, and he's not good. Then you must go to the Bezdin Kavua in the city. No excuses. You have to go to the Bezdin Kavua in the city.
It's not like every three people can just decide.
No, they have to know. But they could force you to go to Din Torah. So if a person doesn't go to Din Torah, is really a terrible thing. Really, they should put him into chayrim. That's what they should do.
Morocco, every city has a place in Kabul.
He's in Kabul.
Yeah.
Well, in Europe, all the Ashkenazi cities.
France has enough. Is the London Bed-In, is that considered?
I don't know.
London and stuff like that? Is that
I don't know how it works
I
in
don't think
London.
it's for sure that the Rabbanim are not voted in by the people. That I know how it works in London.
Not voted.
No.
So then it doesn't.
They're not voted. It's a decision made by a closed committee.
But the committee was voted by the community. It's like Zion Tiva'ir.
Could be.
That's also enough. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be voted. It means a Zion Tiva'ir, which Zion Tiva means the how's it called in English? The council members, and which are voted, and they are in charge to appoint Dayanim. And then if the Dayanim have it kifis and they are obligated to choose Dayanim who know the stuff, not because he's a friend of mine, not because he's a soft-spoken person. The first and most important thing, he's got to know his stuff.
So theoretically, if the RCC wanted to be considered a city Bezdin for Los Angeles, then the key would be that the people have to pay their salaries. Is that what it is?
They have to be appointed, make a voting, and they should want them to be.
Why don't we do it now? I don't understand.
What?
Why don't we do it in our community?
Well, no one would agree. No one would agree to, I don't want to be on record, but many people would not happy with them. Lots of people. Yeah, among other Rabbanim.
Just voted for Liberal Council on Sunday, and one of our guys got elected. It was very easy, with microphone. So I didn't think.
What? Elected? What?
No. You're confusing Goyish councilman and Jewish councilman. What does nothing to do with the other?
No, I'm talking about the voting system.
But that's a Goyish thing. We're talking about you have Jewish people only voting only for Jewish council.
Why can't you set a level of standard of what you need to know to be considered a dayan? Let these people all stand for what do you call it?
Yeah.
Find all the dayanim.
Well,
How many dayanim in LA are there?
You have to make a vote. You need someone to organize this. That's right. You need someone who willing to take charge and organize this.
But Rabbi, how does it work when you have all the different communities? Satmari won't go to Lubavitch, Berlin,
No, they have. No. But no, say because there is such a concept. You have to, from two cities, where to go. That's a whole Shulchan Aruch discusses. Let's say you're from one city.
From Sydney, the other guy's from Melbourne.
Right, there's a whole Shulchan Aruch. The Tveya has to go to the Nitva. But later learn the whole Shulchan Aruch. There's whole rules and regulations. Who goes to whom? But I don't know about that. This question always was because people did business from one city to another city. I want my business. You want your business. Now, real dayanim have to be smuchim. You know what smuchim is? You have to smicha, not smicha. What we call smicha. Smicha means that ish me ish. Yeah, you all probably you all learned the Rambam, especially the Babich got to know this. That the Rambam held that if the Rambam has a problem, the Rambam says Mashiach is going to come and he's going to bring all the halachas back to thing. How are you going to paskin? Smicha stop. You know what smicha means? That we don't have any more. We cannot kill anyone. Can't kill anyone. We cannot. Many things stopped, which we can't do. So the question, the Rambam says, all this is going to come back. How is this going to come back? We don't have a smuchim. So the Rambam says that all Chachmei Eretz Yisrael get together, and they appoint someone. He is called a mismach.
That proves Mashiach came. Remember, that's what.
Well, it did happen. The times of Bes Yosef.
It also said he had smicha.
Yeah. But the times of the Shulchan Aruch, that's what they did. The times of Bes Yosef, they made the Bes Yosef, Chaim Batal. I think the Rebbe Rav, the three of them, they were masmach. But it was a big uproar. Because the Rambam said that Mashiach is, the Rambam held that Mashiach is not musmach, he has to have smicha for someone.
Right.
And the Rambam learned that Mashiach is going to be from the living, not from the dead. So in Meile, the Rambam it's going to be Tchias HaMesim, it's going to be someone here. So how is he going to have smicha? To make back Sanhedrin. So the Rambam held, if all Chachmei Yisrael get together, appoint someone, that makes it smuchim. Right now, we don't have smuchim. So how do we have a right to paskin? You don't know. So the Gemara says, I'll explain what the Gemara says, that we are the shlichus emissaries, you know what shlich is, from the early, what's his name? Early Dayanim. They knew that smicha is going to stop, so we are, and they only made us shlichus for not all things. We're going to soon see in Shulchan Aruch. So we have a right to force a person to come to the Torah. Certain things we can't do nothing about it. Now, many Rishonim hold that this is a deraisa. These dayanim who do now are mekayim the mitzvah a deraisa. That's a shlichus of the early ones. The proof to this is, how do we make gators? You have to have dayanim, you have to have smuchim. Yeah, you need a bezdin. So if there's no smuchim, how do you make gators? How can I tell a person married this lady? She's not Jewish. Oh, how do we make her into a Jew? Because she had a gators. We don't have smuchim.
The Syrians hold out there.
They had a different. That was a tikkun they made. They made a tikkun because it was a hefker. No, nothing to do with that. They accept. They don't make a comment, but they accept a comment. No, they would accept a comment in the community. They will not make what's his name? In Mexico, the Bezdin over there has a Kabbalah from generations. They don't make gators there. And he told me why. The Rav told me because they wanted to send. I made more than once for them gators. He explained to me that was generations ago. They decided it became a horrible. Everyone found the shiksa.
It's the same way until today.
Yeah, many places.
Where? Sao Paulo.
They don't.
They're not together.
But the Kona was made because it was a hefker welt.
Right.
That's
what do
what
they do? Someone
they have to go to America.
You cut out 90% of people can't come.
And it makes it very good because this couple came from Mexico. I must tell you, boy, was she sincere.
To make it there.
Because they wouldn't do it there, and she had to come. So she came once. We just, I don't know. I said she has to know more stuff, and and I really gave her a hard time, and she came back, and she really, there was no question in my mind, she's going to be really from. She really,
Yeah.
but if you make it hard, they're not supposed to make it too hard. And I'm not going to hilchas of this, but the Lamaisa, the Rav Rishonim hold it's a raya that we will shlich and another raya. But we spoke last week. How do you force a get out of someone? You need a master bezdin, because if they're not a bezdin, the get is possible, and the lady cannot get married, even at places where you're allowed to force. So many Rishonim hold that it is a deraisa digedin shlichase koavdina. Other Rishonim learn a very interesting zach. The Rishonim learn. They learn the dina muman is we have her do it. We do it hefker bezdin hefker. You know what that means? Bezdin could make hefker. Take it away. So how does it work, the shlichus? They told us if 3 people do so and so, even though we're wrong, we don't know the halacha. They already early Bezdin made sure that they were mafkid the money. You know what hefker means? Bezdin could say your money doesn't belong to you, we're taking away for you, it belongs to him. Bezdin could do that. So they held.
The current day Bezdin as being
No. So I'm saying the early Bezdin said that when right earlier that if the smicha stops. So the 3 people sit down have it in Torah. They don't know the halacha. So if there was a psak, it worked with hefker bezdin hefker. And how does it get work according to them?
Yeah.
How does it get to? The Gemara says kol mekadosh adai to the bon mekadosh. When you're standing under the chuppah, if you remember what you said, and a kedas aret mekadesh kedas moshe v'so. What does kedas moshe v'so mean? You know what that means? That means you're Mekadosh, that I want the Sanhedrin, the Bezdin, should agree to this Kedushin. So, if later there's a problem, he doesn't want to give a get, and we forced him to give a get, the reason the get is a get is because they were never married. You understood what I just said? When you stand under the chuppah, you say Kedas Moshe B'Yisur. Kedas Moshe B'Yisur says, I'm Mekadosh you with you could Mekadosh you with the condition. I read Mekadosh Amanas, you give me $1 million. Or Amana any t'nai you can make. So with Kedas Moshe B'Yisur, there's an automatic t'nai that the Sanhedrin must agree to it. So if later there's a problem, so we say that you never were married.
Why aren't we matter agunas based on that?
We can't. They knew it's going to be a hefker welt if we could do that. So it has to be done right. If it's not done right, they don't say afkir bon kedishim.
I heard from somebody that there's a certain dayan who's trying to get some sort of language like that put into ksuba, so that when people get married initially, it's set up in a way where if the guy doesn't listen to Bezdin or whatever.
No, they make it not. They can't make. We don't make the kedushin that way. We make the ksuba the right. If you don't show up to Bezdin, there's a knas. That's what they want. You can't, with Kedusha, you can't do that.
No, it's some way, I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's some way of solving the Aguna problem, where basically, if he doesn't listen, so it makes it as if, and that's the time that's put into what he called, and then it makes it retroactively, like they never married.
Yeah, after now, it doesn't make sense to me. I just want to say, for the record, last week, there is no really Aguna problem. There are once in a while in Aguna. Chazal wanted Aguna problems. Because like this, more people are going to make peace. If I could get divorced very quickly, people can get divorced very, very quickly. People don't understand this. I know that the bottom don't understand. Aguna. Chazal did not want, the whole ksuba was based, Chazal very practical. I know all of you are married here, right? You stood under the chuppah, you thought you got the greatest girl in the world. I'm sure you all did. But after the dust settles, And you realize that's not everything that you meant, and then you wake up one morning, how did I marry this lady? I don't know how I did this. Chazal knew that that's why they made a ksuba. They wanted it to be difficult. If it's difficult, you'll make peace with her. That's the guna problem. The guna, it's the modern Orthodox people make a big fuss about it.
Did the Rabbi didn't want that somebody should hold a woman hostage for 10 years?
You don't hostage. Who says you should make peace with him?
She can.
If she could, she doesn't want.
The guy beats her all the time.
That's a Shulchan. I'm not talking about beats him. But I have a case now in the community where she just left him. He's not so nice. She came to me. She called me again tonight. I didn't answer, but she wants again. He's not so nice. 4 children. You wake up, he's not so nice with 4 children. I told him. Yeah, she didn't say. I asked him, why do you want to get divorced? He's not a nice guy. What does it mean now that he beats you? No. We argue. He's not nice. Birthday, he didn't get me a birthday gift. That's what she told me on the phone.
Rabbi, what about this movement in Israel today to start the Sanhedrin again?
Can't start a Sanhedrin.
I think they did the same thing.
Yeah, with Rabbi Steinhardt.
They did the same thing. They got all the Chacham and Azim because he said even the Achregas was on board and everyone, they were master of someone, and that person gave it over. You know it's about what, right?
They didn't. But there was a rumor they were trying to, but they never got all the Rabbanim. Never. They tried it after World War II. The Briskerov didn't allow it. Chazanish didn't allow it. So the guy wanted to do it again, and there were a lot of people who said the Briskerov said not to do it, because when the Rambam they did it, B'S Yosef, they were afraid of who knows what's going to happen. The Mashiach is going to come. He's going to help us out.
If you have a Sanhedrin today, it's still, as you said, there's still a lot of laws that are still not.
Can't kill anyone.
Because you have to say
That's it.
You need a B'Samigdash.
That's it.
That's it. All the other things you could. Besides capital punishment, everything. This is what we're going to learn the Shulchan Aruch now. This is about restarting now. Okay? I didn't hear what? But that has nothing to do. You don't need a bezdin for that. You know, you don't need. Bizman hazeh, duni hadiyunem. This dina hayduos. The guide mitzi owes the money. V'halvua is alone. One of the most important things the Chazal wanted, we should be able to judge loans, because we wanted very much to encourage people to give loan to each credit. Exhibis isha, exuba, b'yirishis, and inheritance, imatunas, in gifts, imazig momen chaveiroi. If a person is mazik his friend's money. Car accident. Car accident is extremely shchich. You know, he bumped into someone else's car, and he says, "Shenadvunam ametziyin tumid." That's very common. V'yesh ben chesor and kiss, and there's a loss of money. Okay, he says, "Avadvurim she'enim mitziyim," which is not common. Api she'esh ben chesor and kiss. Kom behem shechav lebechavato. One animal attacks another animal. So that's not so common. A dog attacks another dog. Looks like it wasn't so common. I don't know. I'm not. But it's not common. Oi. He says, "The word Shem Em Chsun Kis, Api Shem Etzion, Kantashlim Kefil." You hear about say, stealing was always a problem. You're talking about stealing. So we have 2 Adam. We have a nice video that this guy broke in and he stole. This happened at the store. Rabbanut Dayan told me. A guy brought in a video showing how this person came into his store, he stole an object. Yeah. Clear. Today they have it's not like,
It's accepted as proof.
Yeah, but and Rabbanut accepted it, and they were going to throw him to jail. It's very hard to falsify. I mean, I'm not into this, but anyways, so this is common. The reason I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you an interesting Santa story. There was a guy who went to the mikveh, one who runs a maisit, went to the mikveh once, and he had $3,000 cash, and came out of the mikveh, disappeared. And I remember there was here, Rabbi Chaim was here a few years ago, so they had brought a dime, questions and answers. So he got up, this guy, and he says, I went in the mikveh with $3,000, am I mechuyev to pay the yeshiva now? He had the yeshiva money, it wasn't his money, it was He says, of course you got to pay. He says, why? Because you are pshia. Even though you're a pshia, great gross negligence. He says, I didn't think anyone steals. So he says, you're a fool. People steal. You're a fool. People steal. You have to know that people steal. So that's common. So kefil, you don't paskin. You catch a ganav, you have to pay. I said double. You catch a ganav stealing a shirt, so you have to pay 2 for the guy. That we don't paskin the knas. What? The second we don't paskin. Even though it's common to steal. I always tell people. I want to tell you something very important. I think I once said it over here. Very important, you should remember. The Torah says, I give a person to watch me, my iPhone. Watch it me. And the guy says, I lost it. So the Torah says, I have the right to demand he should swear. What do you mean? Why should he swear? You don't trust him? Why don't you trust him? The Torah says, do not trust him. I have a right to demand a shvur. The guy puts on a Bein Tam's film. He says chitas every day. I don't know what else in the Bible goes. And he does everything. The Torah says, comes to mind, you don't trust him. The Torah says you should make him swear. We're talking about Mamish right after Har Sinai. Because there are element of people's society who's stealing is not the worst thing. It's common. So the Chazal added other knesses. If you punch someone, if you slap someone, they made knuses. They made fines. They don't. Even though it's common, people fight. One is a punch, one is a slap. Anytime you pay more than you were mazik, or mishalom chutzi nezik. You know what chutzi nezik is? If your animal gored and all chutzi nezik, eidu noisa el mimchem hasmuchem be'etz Yisrael. Who got smich in Etz Yisrael? Chitz mechutzi nezik tzroides l'shemum and veniknas. You know what the chutzi nezik tzroides? It's nothing. Again, nowadays, if an animal is walking the street and he hit a rock, and the rock went and broke something, so that's called tzroides. Tzroides means a pebble. And that's a gzeres akosiv, that it's a knas. It's really, he should pay the whole thing. It's a gzeres akosiv, pays only half. That's a halacha Moshe Sinai. But anything that's common, and it's not a knas, bears the paskin. But it's got to be a loss of money. There's no loss of money, even though it's common, Bezin doesn't paskin.
Didn't we learn when we were doing the different section with Adina de Machusa that it's not a problem for like a local government or municipality to be able to have law and order, right? So like you can't park your car, or they can tow it, or give you a ticket or whatever it is. So it seems like from this, it's saying that you can only do things where there are damages. How does that jive with keeping law and order? No, that's something else. Let's say the city decides if you're parking the wrong side. You live in Bnei Barak, the city only from Yidden. You park on the wrong side of the street, they're going to tow your car and charge you. They charge you an arm and a leg over here. Right. Well, let's say New Square.
No.
Allowed to walk on one side of the street. Can they put a knas? Hey, if you walk on the woman's side.
Yeah, if you live in a town and they made it kuna, Zayin TV made it kuna, yes.
Something else, not what I know.
But let's just talk. This is a good important marshal because people don't understand this. You park on the wrong side of the street, so you don't have to say, I parked on the wrong side of the street.
Right.
You don't have to do that. What you have to do is they have a right to tow your car away. What right? You have to tow my car? You're gonna. No. You live in the city. This is the rules. And now we charge you. How much did they charge for towing a car? $150. $200, and then they charge you what? 400. They charge for, and then they charge you for each day. What is it? So you're going to scream, Chai v'Kayim, I got Novum. They have right to do it. That's the Dina Machisadina.
Right.
They have a right. You want to.
So I'm thinking does a Bezdin have that right as well?
The city does this. The city has a right to do that. Bezdin has a right. We later learn special halacha. We later get to it. Bezdin has a koyach. We will get to it. But this is not a bezdin. You don't need a bezdin for that. That is a city ordinance. You live in the city. We need law. We need order in the city. We need to pick up the garbage. We need to clean it. And the city has a right to make such ordinance. The city has a right to say, I don't want you to build a big house over here. You know, Uman, it's the joke. You know, there was a guy over there who built himself a palace. You saw that? No. Built himself. I went to make the Erev. In right next door, there's houses with open sewers. In middle, he built himself he's one of the mafia. They told me he's a mafioso guy. But the point is, there's no ordinance over there. There's no ordinance. But as a guy says, Muncie, a guy calls me up. He built an extra apartment, illegal apartment. His neighbor mastered. They're not called mastering. You have no right to build an apartment. I moved to Muncie because I want suburbs. I don't want you should have an illegal apartment. You are doing the avila, not him. You have no right to do it. And a guy called me. There was two guys in Malibu. They both live here, but they both have a house in Malibu on the beach next to each other. A guy built a wall there. He said to me, "It's, the ordinance doesn't allow." I said, the best thing is first come to Din Torah. Maybe he'll take it off. He came to Din Torah. I don't know why. The RCC didn't allow him to maser. It doesn't make sense to me. Shulchan Aruch says that he's allowed to. But I thought maybe without man. Anyway, and he lost in Torah. It didn't bother him, he lost in Torah. But the city passed by once, and they noticed that they take it off. A year later, one of the people inspected passed by, saw illegal wall, and made him take it down.
So you live in a city where there's an ordinance, and you don't like that somebody's violating that ordinance, you have the right to muster it?
Well, the best thing is first going to Din Torah, because it's going to cost them a lot of money. So you should tell them, listen, come then. If you can't, no one wants to call into Din Torah, doesn't want, you're allowed to go to the city and say he's building something illegally here.
Didn't rather uphold the city.
Rather, because we all moved in here, and we appoint council members, and they made that you shouldn't have this Irene. Yeah, I could say it. I'll take it off. I don't want to. You have this Miss Irene here in this neighborhood. Having your noise over here, people come by.
It has to bother you.
Yeah, it does bother, but such a thing bothers. That's rishis. That's just rishis. That's just Saddam. But it really bothered people. I wasn't surprised. It would have bothered me too. I'm not all the time cars coming. I was there right before Yontif. The place were coming and making noises, trying dresses. You have a right to know. So a guy tells me, panusa. Not on my headache. There's a city ordinance.
You say the neighbors with the shul on Highland and 3rd Street,
they have a right.
They have a right to say.
100% they have a right. 100%.
Any neighbors who push it.
Yeah, that city ordinance was made by this community. So they voted. I was yes or not. It's still fighting in court. I don't
Is there
know.
anything in terms of Torah stuff or that you're allowed to do it? Meaning like the shot is allowed, or there's not?
I don't know what the city ordinance is. I have no idea. Whatever you see, it's not an Aveda.
In my neighborhood, you could run a business out of your house. In
could.
Beverlywood, if you want to have a gun, you got to do it on the down low. Otherwise,
It's not true. But in our neighborhood, the lady had a gun and someone mastered it and she had to close it down.
That's different. That's because she didn't have a permit to operate a preschool. You understand? I mean, for a daycare, you got to have a license. So where my kid used to go on Highland, if they got tipped off, they'd be sending kids to the neighbors and stuff like that. But, or if they have the it's for a certain number of kids. It's 12 kids, 2 adults. She has 22 kids. That's where.
All right, okay, that's something
but a
else.
business on Highland, you can have a business in your
Whatever the ordinance is. I'm just saying, whatever the ordinance is, they have a right because that's why you moved here. You don't want to live on the street. You moved in a quiet neighborhood. You want to.
Does it have to really bother me, or if I just don't like the guy, can I?
So that's Midas Saddam.
Ah.
That we can learn in Chosh Mishpat. A lot of cases, which is called Midas Saddam. You know what Midas Saddam means? You just.
Well, but where does that? This guy's not paying his taxes, and then that affects me too.
Yes, if a guy cheats on the taxes, he has a house and he puts it the name that it's a shul house. He is a Ganav is a shegitz. That's what it says in the Gemara.
He's not saying you can master.
That's something else. Master him here because you put him to jail for that. But I'm saying, but a guy who does it is mamash a ganav. It says in Gemara Mefresh. It's Malaydel. If we get to it, the Chosh Mishpat is Mefurish Halacha.
1 second. So now
If I get, let me. What's your first name again?
Rafi.
What Rafi's asking is a very important question. What happens is many communities, the guy has a house and he puts it on the shul's name and doesn't pay the taxes. And for that reason, everyone else's taxes go up. Now here in LA, it's a hot to do, but in Muncie, this was a huge tumult. The guy puts a house on the shul's name. People went to Masad. They couldn't care less. They went to the Masad. So that if let's say 50 people don't pay the property taxes, then our taxes go up.
Rabbi, forget it, whatever the scenario is, you sound like you made a distinction between if it's just like, hey, the city will make him shut his business versus the city will put him in jail. That in such a case, you have to be.
Yes. Well, sure. A guy doesn't pay, he cheats on the taxes,
Right.
they could put him into jail.
So in such a case, you're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to. You have to do it according to the Torah, and say that he's mazik, and
What's the difference? Jail or not?
It's like you can't. Let's say a guy owes you money. Can you beat him up? No, you can't beat him up.
What's the determining factor?
I was saying, can you beat up a guy who owes you money?
Take a strike.
Yeah, but you can't beat him up.
Right.
So, but you bounce him to the police, he'll be arrested. That's like beating him up.
Why do you care if somebody goes to jail anyway? It's not jail isn't like what it was 200 years ago.
I spoke to someone just came out of jail. It is horrible.
It might be horrible, but
No, they beat you up. No. He told me what happened, not to him. It wasn't. He said they had a. There was.
but feds is not good.
Well, till you get to the Fed, first you're in the holding pen. The guys just told me they were angry at one guy, and boy, did they. I don't want to say in the shoe what they did over there to him. They were going to go him. They picked on someone for no. He says, he has no idea why they picked on him. That's not true. That it's no party there. I went to the prison more than once. It's not a party there.
As a visitor or
I was a visitor, and I spoke to people. I came out of. I was a visitor. I spoke to people who went in prison. It tells me it's not true. Many of these prisoners, they don't care. They will just punch you for no reason.
Even if they won't do it, you can't compare it to that.
Yeah, they used to, and if it's, anyways. That's what the Mechaber said. Let's move on to C-base.
So if it causes a monetary damage to him, that's also a reason not to go through the court system?
You have to come to the Torah. And if he doesn't want to come and he doesn't want to fix it, then Bezdin gives you permission to go to court.
What determines if you have to go to Bezdin?
It's always best to go to Bezdin, says the Shulchan Aruch. Because but let's say it's this illegal wall. We put up a wall. It was annoying for him. Apidin, he was allowed to go to the thing.
Same with
Miss Harin, yes. I understood from her that the reason they closed it down because she was not allowed to have a business there.
So even though that could have caused her monetary damage,
She lost the business. She really did. People helped her to give a loan, and she had to start scratch. She never rented a store. She was
that's okay that they
yes. I don't have to just because you open. That's why I moved into this neighborhood because it's a quiet neighborhood. Imagine a guy's going to open a drill store next to you. The guy's going to open, like Terry Semis had the problem. The neighbors didn't want. We just, voted the whole community, and they need our votes. So the council tried to facilitate. What? That's when there's no ordinance. When there's an ordinance, you have to do what the ordinance. Kaifen is one thing when there is none. But if we get together, b'nei chotzer, we make rules, you can't violate the rule. We all got together. We have a chotzer, we all got together, you cannot sell or store in the chotzer. So if that's how we bought the property, you can't change it. Moshe, a guy, let me tell you another story. A guy asked me that he has a condominium. I forgot what he told me. And he wants to rent it out. He can't rent it out. It's illegal.
the bylaws in this condo won't let it.
Yeah, they don't let him. And he asked me, can I do?
Condo complexes were like that.
Yeah, You're not allowed, the other places you're allowed to, but he said clearly, when I bought it,
Because when they set up the condo, they want owners to live there.
right, they don't want hilarious to live there, exactly. I don't want to say what you guys get the message. They don't want the low class to live there. Said, if they have a right to, if they find out, I told them they have a find out, they have a right, they could put, whatever it is, and you're not supposed to. You're really not allowed to do that. He has shitvus, he agreed, and many Yidden also not, even though not from Yidden, you agreed not to do that. So that's like a business deal. We bought this condos, manas that the owner has to live there. You can't give it out to anyone. It's funny, you can't rent it out. He said, I could give it for free and take money under the table. That was the question. I'm allowed to have some, my friend lived there.
Right.
But can't make business out of it. Okay. So the Mechaber says, Udnu shechuva b'chaveiroi. Now this, believe it or not, this happens. People get into fights and they punch each other. Ein ba'agven dayunim shenemich b'etzo nezik, tsar. We can't collect nezik. Nezik means damages. Guy, how do we count damages? Damages is a joke how much let's say a guy works, most people work by the computer. So let's say the the guy knocked off a leg out of him. I mean, the nezik, he can still work on the computer. His earnings didn't change. So nezik is very, very low. So the question many years ago, I'm trying to remind myself the story. Many years ago, a guy asked me like this. The guy was mazik him, terrible monetary, caused him terrible aggravation. I remember the exact story. And you can't mechayiv him up besdin. So he says, I don't want to be meichel unless he pays me $500,000 for the pain and aggravation and the loss of sleep. And so he said, it's a beferish Mishnah not that way. The Mishnah says, after a guy paid tzar nezik sheveri b'boishes, the Mishnah, then he has to ask him mechila. The guy said, I don't want to be meichel. Who wants to live without a leg? Most people will not give up a leg for who knows how much $1 million. So, but the Torah says you don't have a right for that money. If you are not meichel, you are shegitz. You're the achzer. The guy really apologizes. You understand? You can't say, in the courts today, for such a case, I could make $10 million. So I don't want to be meichel him. So the Torah said, this is what you get monetary thing. Get tsar, nezik, tsar. This is what you get monetary. Afterward, he doesn't have to pay you, but he has to. He's saying collect nezik. He says nezik, tsar, pegam. Now the problem with pegam over here, the Siva says, what pegam means? Pegam means if you raped someone.
That person becomes pegam?
That's called pegam. That's a problem. Okay, v'koifer, our sheves v'ripi, how much is unemployed and doctor bills, you do collect. You do collect.
Okay, so you're saying that if the guy who was the aggressor pays for the sheves,
I'm just giving a marshal. If once
at that point the other person has to say, oh, I
No. Let's start from scratch. The Torah says you hurt someone, okay? So you paid him for the unemployment. Let's say you don't have to deliberately. I mean, guy hits. It was. I have a sister-in-law walking a borough park, crossed the red light, and a young lady was talking on the phone, just hit her. My sister-in-law was in the hospital for a while. Broke a leg and broke an arm. It was just terrible. And the insurance paid, so didn't pay everything. She was in bed, and unfortunately she's almana. I mean, she has to. It's terrible, right? So she has no money, goes soon. So minat Torah, she would have to pay all the sheves and all doctor bills. Okay, that would have she has to pay. Now, she did pay the sheves. You do pay the work. So the guy says, but you know how much pain you caused me?
Right.
If you give me $1 million, I'll be meichel. If you don't give me $1 million, I'm not going to be meichel.
Right.
Do you have a right to do that?
No, why not?
Because no, the Torah said how much money you deserve.
But the Torah officially.
One second. After he gave you the money, what the Torah said, let's see, paid off the money. The Tzar, the Chazal said, this is how much boishes you get, this is how much you get, you paid off. Now,
Don't pay that.
What? I was saying, if let's say he does pay it off. I'm explaining the Dina de Gemara. If a guy pays off all the things,
Right.
then the person says, I want $1 million. You want to close? I'm going to tell you an interesting story. This happened to Chabad. No one would lose a leg for $100 million. No normal person would want to lose a leg. No, you can't pay a leg. The guy says, listen, you're wealthy. I am not moichel you unless you give him $1 million. Does he have a right? No. You only have a right to demand, even Bisman Azeh, we'll see later, how much a Bezdin would say to pay.
Okay, but so just getting back to what we were saying, the time of the Gemara, they could make you pay the tsar and the rifoy and the budgets and all that stuff, right? And today we're saying that there's only really
only Shevis of Ripi.
Shevis and rifoy.
Why? Shevis is the unemployment. Shevis and Ripi.
Quantifiable. They can say, hey.
Now, why is not Nezik played? What's wrong with Nezik? So one reason it's very difficult to value Nezik.
Okay.
It's extremely difficult. The Rambam says we take him and we assessed how much he would be a slave, and whether stay with a leg, stay without a leg, go figure that out. So Mamela, that's why we don't have Nezik nowadays. That's why we don't.
So what's the point? Fine, I understand we don't have these things.
Says the
The
Ramah.
fact is, we don't have them, but the flip side of it is that that person that got damaged is not really getting what he should have got.
V'yesh omrim, let's learn the Ramah. V'yesh omrim, shav ripi v'shevis ein dunen. Nothing. Larisin hagen ken, the dag b'se, a koifen a choyve lefais a nechbel, ele konse ken nere lehem, koshibai sumach. Bezdin says, we cannot force you, but you have to, we're going to put you to chayrim unless you mafais the guy to pay a certain amount of money.
But the amount of money do they stipulate? We'll see.
Yeah, but it doesn't say, so very not clear. Very, very not clear.
In order to revise the guy, so the guy had this one, he said $1 million.
Not Pitzoyim for breaking up an game, but a guy who lost a leg, yeah, every case.
Isn't there a concept where, like, you look at a person and say, how much money would it take for you to absorb the pain or suffering this guy went through? Or something like that?
No. The Gemara says differently. The Gemara says how much a person, the king says his leg has got to come off. How much is he willing to pay, lose money, that he should do it with anesthesia and without anesthesia. That's Bobkus.
Not focus.
Yeah, but how much are you willing to pay? But you don't pay the pain. The pain is enormous. You know what I mean? You know, how much is a person willing to spend if he has to lose a leg, how to pay to have anesthesia, something like that?
To lose the leg with no pain.
No, right.
Okay, so at the end of the day, do we have two different opinions here?
Yeah, the Ramah says other holds ripi boy shevis. You don't judge, but the Ramah says the minig is.
How would you give ripi and boishes?
Yes, and
You don't give it, but you can.
We make him pay. Bezdin makes him pay if he did it. How's they see fit, and if not, they will put him to chayrim. They're not
It's
going.
not actually tied to ripi and boishes.
No.
Ripi and shevis.
No, it's tied in everything. How much Bezdin would see? How much is such a thing as you should pay?
And that's what we hold.
That's so we hold that way. Yes.
The unemployment is that per whatever that person makes.
That other person made. Yes, of course.
Why can't they measure based on that?
Based on what?
The person loses a leg, like you said, if he's a computer programmer, it's not that big of a loss.
Extremely difficult to measure this. The Gemara is.
You use it for more than just work your leg.
Right.
Slave
That's what I'm
market.
saying.
It's a slave market.
Right, to get to work.
Yeah.
So, do you charge to get to work? How does that work?
Somebody to help him, you gotta pay salary to another person.
It's very, very difficult. But a bezdin with paskin that you have to pay. You know, there's a big question over here in the Pischut Tshuva. How about Eish? Burning. So there's a very famous story that happened in Monsey. Well, Eish, is that also common and not common? Person was not careful and made a fire and it burned someone else's house down. Pusik, he was not careful. You know, in Monsey there was a guy who rented a house from someone for Pesach. This guy was a rich guy, went for the program, and a guy rented his house, wanted his children to come. Without permission, he made Erev Pesach matzahs. Where did he make the Erev Pesach matzahs? In his fireplace. And the house burned down. Totally. Totally. And not only that, they shouldn't refuse to pay because the fire marshal saw that they did something illegal. So you have to go to court.
Very legal was to bake matzahs.
Make it bait matzahs.
If you were at that shiur, you would know that you're making your own matzahs before Pesach. It's no good.
But no, coming back, so what happened was, I like the story very much. So he didn't want to go to the Torah. Someone told me those story.
Which one didn't want to go?
The guy who burned the house down. He didn't want to go to the Torah. So the guy called him to the court, because he has money, that guy. And he about the whole thing. Yeah, it is $500,000 was just the house was worth out. $600,000. I forgot the guy told me. And this is without, forget the belongings.
The question is that we're Tayyam without smicher.
Yeah, Keribaska. Yes, the most poskim holds that he has the right to go and he has to pay. But you know what it is? I tell people, Erev Pesach Matzahs, he was machmer to do. When he's mazik someone there, he forgets about, comes the money, Man Hashem, he has to have Erev Pesach Matzahs.
Even if the insurance does pay, is it still clear something?
Well, it depends what they pay everything or not.
Did we learn that the cost of the insurance premiums that will go up from having a claim on the policy, you will be chayav to pay?
They also will have to pay. He has to pay all the nezik that comes out of the thing.
So the difference, like his deductible and his
Everything, yeah, right. I don't know what happened at the end of the story. I just know he didn't want to go. And I mean, the guy who made the fire, you know, the guy had a house, so the guy put a lien. It was, you know, like, you know, you have to, you know, it's
I don't understand how the insurance is. The guy rents his house to someone who burns down his house, and the insurance isn't going to cover that?
he made an illegal fire there.
What's that?
The fire marshal said that he did something illegal.
Yeah, but he rented it to the guy.
I'm not, don't argue with me. I'm not.
But I think the mortgage company will make him.
I mean, there is such a thing, right?
I don't know, it's not my field of
Oh.
insurance.
I have no idea. I just know that insurance, he had a big problem with insurance, that's what I was told. Refused to pay, and they tried to.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of clauses in these policies.
Yeah, this was like.
But that's the whole point. That's why that guy's responsible.
That's like living in New York and leaving your windows open now and complaining about your couch is ruined, your car's ruined. Go make insurance. It's open. You're at the store, close your windows.
You know, I want to just say one thing. I want to say, just now, driving away, someone asked me, Rafi. Yeah. Someone asked me.
Stop with the liberal stuff. Stop.
Someone asked me, is he allowed to not be honest with the insurance company?
Is he allowed to what?
Not be honest with the insurance company. I think it was with his car, and he has a deductible, so the mechanic is going to check it up. I says, if you do it, you're a ganef. Because you're not allowed to do it. Especially Lubavitch is not allowed to do it. Shulchan Aruch is mishunadig machmer about it. Maybe
If
someone.
you don't do it, the body shop does it.
Doesn't make a difference. It's you who doing it. He's your shliach. You're telling him to do it.
No, the body shop says
Same thing. Same thing. Same thing. According to the Shulchan Aruch, I'm going to tell you something. According to Shulchan Aruch, you mamish oiva loy sigzel. He says it very clearly in Shulchan Aruch. Very, very machmer about it.
if the body shop says to you, don't worry about the deductible, I got it covered.
That means I'm going to lie for you. That's what he's saying. Oh yeah.
No.
He's discounting, he's giving you a break.
This guy told me that what happens, he explained it to me, that what happens is that the guy's going to say, you know, I have already my adjuster, I know he's a big gun, he's going to come down, we're going to check it up, don't worry.
Listen to that. You bring the car into the shop.
And he breaks it.
Tell the adjuster to come see it in the shop. And then in the shop,
They break it.
Armenian body shops, they make the $500 of damage becomes $5,000 of damage, and that's what they do. And they waive your deductible.
Because the guy's getting.
Don't worry, you don't have to pay your $500 deductible. They have you covered.
So that you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do it. It's the mom's going to.
And by the way, it affects everybody else also.
Yeah, insurance goes up. Okay, the rest.